What's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Red and Gold Standard podcast. My name is Zach Hernandez, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Matt Llewellyn, live with a special midweek live stream. Matt, how you doing this Wednesday evening?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I'm still waiting on, it's day whatever of the Jimmy Garoppolo watch. I think it's just a slow period of time before the draft. I think everybody's gearing up towards that at the end of the month. But I'm good, man. Let's jump into it.
Yeah, real quick, I'm sure you guys have all seen by now that artist on Twitter, Rita Oak Art on Twitter. She's like doing a piece of art every day until Jimmy Garoppolo is traded, and just gotta shout that out because it's pretty cool. I saw her actually on the news recently. She was doing an article or an interview, excuse me. So shout out to Rita Oak Art because she's from Portugal, which I thought is awesome, and the art's pretty good. Yeah, guys, if you're tuning in on Twitter, head over to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/49ers Hive. Join there so we can see and interact with your comments. If you're commenting on Twitter, we can't see or interact with them. We're not ignoring you. Head over to YouTube while you're there. Hit like, hit subscribe. It helps the channel out. Most of all accounts that made it here. Yeah. Shout out Warriors World. They got this fantastic Candlestick Legends merch. I had to get it in white and black. We got not much of a packed show for you guys tonight, but we do have a fun show. Matt, I think the biggest kind of debate going on in 49ers circles this past week is whether or not Frank Gore is a Hall of Famer, which I don't know. To me, is kind of a little absurd. I guess you could kind of give a sense of where I'm going to answer that. But what do you think? Is Frank Gore a Hall of Famer?
I do think he's a Hall of Famer, with the caveat that I know a lot of people are saying online or asking online, is he a first ballot Hall of Famer? That's where I think Frank Gore does not meet the criteria of first ballot. You got to be far and away a fantastic player to reach first ballot. And, Frank Gore is going to get in on longevity. He's going to get in on consistency. He's the only player in NFL history to have 12 straight 1,200-yard scrimmage seasons. So from a production standpoint, he's always kind of been there in the background. He's never been like the best at his position or anything like that. But for body of work, I definitely think that he gets into the Hall of Fame. It's just when you're talking about that first ballot, that's really saved for those people that are just so far above and beyond the Jerry Rices, the Emmitt Smiths, Tom Brady's going to be a ballot one Hall of Famer, just Peyton Manning, those guys. So for me, I think he's going to have to wait a couple years, just like, players in the past have done. It's one of those things where the argument that he's not a Hall of Famer is silly. It's just, when is he going to get in?
Yeah, I agree. And I totally understand the argument that he was never the best at his position any one year. That's fine. I get it. I wouldn't say that that's kind of the caveat or the benchmark of a Hall of Fame player. I think you kind of have to grade his career as a whole. Like you said, Matt, to me, a Hall of Famer, and I don't know, this may sound kind of cheesy, but it's like, can you tell the story of the NFL without this player story being included?
Right.
And I don't think you can. I think Frank Gore,
I would argue that you could tell the story of the NFL without Frank Gore, but I don't think you could tell the story of the 49ers without Frank Gore.
And maybe I am biased.
So I think from a team-based perspective, I think we are going to be a little biased towards that. But I mean, he does have a great story, right? The 2 torn ACLs in college. He wasn't the starter there. There's a lot of things going for him. My thing is that I look at it in a different way. If you can put people like Terrell Davis in there, who was injury shortened, doesn't have the numbers, or somebody like Jerome Bettis, right? Just because, Jerome Bettis made it off of personality more than his play. He was unique in that he was like, he was not a body guy, right? Like, he was just a big lumbering running back that had a great personality, had a cool nickname. But Frank Gore's numbers eclipse his, like, far and away. Frank Gore's the 3rd leading rusher of all time. Shout outs to him, by the way, for finishing in his career 16,000 yards on the bat. Like, that's like right on the nose. Hard to do. But, the story of the NFL, I don't know that he'd be much more than like a blip or a footnote, but I get what you're saying. Like, he's done it for a long time. And I think that that's part of the appeal that gets him in.
Yeah, and I think consistency is kind of key when it comes to Frank Gore, because, what do we hear all the time? It's ridiculously hard to get to the NFL. And it's even harder than that to stay in the NFL. And the fact that he played 241 games, the most of any NFL player, that alone to me should signal his worth. And I know people are saying that, well, towards the later end of his career, he just kind of padded his stats, or he kind of elongated his career in a way that was unfair when you're looking at his stats that got him to the third overall rusher. But there are also teams that still found him valuable. It's like you're telling me that just about any player wouldn't prolong their career and continue to add to their stats if they couldn't. So that's not really an argument in my opinion, because that's what any player would do. And he did it in a sense where he was still productive. He wasn't just the old man on the block. He wasn't Emmitt Smith in Arizona, like when we see these weird players at the end of their careers going to these, crazy teams. That wasn't the case. He was still productive in Indianapolis. He was still productive in Buffalo. So I am happy that he is going to sign the one-day contract and retire with the Niners.
And don't forget, one of his last seasons, before, in between, ironically enough, what you said, Indianapolis and Buffalo, he had a season with Miami where he had 722 yards, but he was averaging 4.6 a carry. So it's not like he was just some bum, you know what I mean? And if we're going to hold, if we're going to hold running backs holding on and padding their stats against running backs, then we definitely have to look at Emmitt Smith, because Emmitt Smith did that for years past Walter Payton. I know a lot of you in hindsight forget about this, but did we not realize the season that Emmitt Smith played in Arizona?
Yep.
In the last few years in Dallas, he was a shadow of himself. So I don't really think you can hold that against people. And like you said, if people find value in you, then it is what it is. We're kind of looking at that situation now with Adrian Peterson.
Yeah.
So
that's a good point.
Particularly, and Maria brings it up, running backs are lucky to make it a couple of years. Absolutely. He played the most games in NFL history, and he's a running back. That's really hard to do. So shout outs to him. And it's really weird that somebody who had such devastating injuries in college stayed really healthy in the NFL. Very rare that happens. So shout outs to Frank for that.
That is another kind of key thing in all of this, is that he blew out both of his knees. Like, he was basically told, you're not going to make it to the pros. You'll probably, not play again. And not only did he play, he played the most games in the NFL of NFL history. Like, that's no small feat. So I don't know. Maybe I was just a little surprised that it was coming from our own fan base, or, other 49ers fans making the argument that he shouldn't get in. I understand arguing both sides of the coin, but I don't know. To me, not a first ballot, but he definitely gets in. I understand if you're trying to say he's not a first ballot. Yeah, totally get it. He was never the premier talent, but looking at his career overall, it's Hall of Fame worthy. I agree with you there.
Yeah. And by the way, for a caveat, because I know we're going to get comments about this, we're talking about most games in NFL history for a running back. Somebody like Tom Brady, who's played 318 games. Obviously, Tom Brady's played more games, but for a running back, we're talking the most in NFL history, just so you know.
Thank you for clearing that up.
I know somebody in the comments is going to be like, what about Tom Brady? What about George Blanda? Somebody's going to bring up some 1930s player or whatever.
Yeah. So I was on Twitter earlier, and I saw that Jack Hammer of the Press Democrat, I believe, tweeted out the WAR chart, the wins above replacement chart after offseason additions. And the 49ers, surprisingly, maybe not surprisingly to you, it was surprising to me, have the best improvement of all 2021 NFC playoff teams. And I'm pulling up the chart now. But would that surprise you if I told you that, Matt?
No, not really. You look at a lot of the NFC teams and they got worse. Even Tampa got worse. Tom Brady came back, yes, but they lost a lot of their offensive line. And Ali Marpet retired. One of their other guard went right up the road to Cincinnati to protect Joe Burrow. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is back in Green Bay, but Devontae Adams is a Raider. Alan Lazard left town. Marquez Valdez-Scantling. His best receiver left is Alan Lazard. So, and everybody else in the NFC wasn't particularly scary to begin with. Obviously, the Seahawks are now a dumpster fire with Russell Wilson gone, with Bobby Wagner gone, with DK Metcalf seemingly on the trade block. It is what it is. This is, I don't know. This is like just a microcosm, just a single stat. It's a little weird. It could change, obviously. Who knows? I think WAR in this context is a little harder to value than it is in baseball, where you have such a long season and so many instances of data input. So the key to having good data is the more you enter, the closer you are to the actual number, the smaller the margin for error. 17 games in a season, anything can happen because, I mean, the wins above replacement doesn't matter if one of your best players goes down in training camp. So you just never really know. And it's fun to do on paper, but the 49ers are looking good going into next year, provided that they can get Jimmy Garoppolo off the roster. That's going to be the key, because if he's back, the team is going to be a little divided, and I don't think you can help that. As far as Jack Hammer goes, dude, did you see the thing the other day where he eats mayonnaise and banana sandwiches?
No, I did not.
I just want to put that out there. Like, he has a video of himself eating a mayonnaise and banana sandwich, and I was appalled, particularly because he had peanut butter right there on the counter.
What the? So, this is very weird to me.
I know that, like, mayonnaise, peanut butter, and banana sandwiches were an Elvis Presley thing. Like, Elvis did that. But then you take out arguably the best part, right? The peanut butter, and you leave mayonnaise and bananas. I don't know. Shout outs to Jack for having more palate courage than I would have. More,
I would never. I would absolutely never.
No.
Yeah. There's a video of
this. It's on Twitter. Check his Twitter page. He put it up.
I'm kind of curious. We're on it right now.
Yeah. Go find it.
We got to see this, guys. Sorry, the show can take a quick detour.
It's gonna be. I think it was maybe under tweets and replies. This was.
Oh, here we go.
Look at this. Look, there's peanut butter right there.
Oh my god. Oh my god, you are a sick man.
Don't get any better.
It gets a lot better, Jack. It gets a lot better than that.
That's horrible. Horrible.
Shout out to Jack Hammer. He does some good stuff. So
he does. That's hilarious. Hey, I respect him going through with it. Who knows if it was just a gag or not, but he did it. So shout out to Jack Hammer. He has
culinary courage, that's for sure.
Yeah. So you talked about Jimmy Garoppolo kind of being the one caveat with this offseason. And you also, talk about how the locker room would be divided. Well, Emmanuel Sanders, who we all know was on the 49ers during their Super Bowl run, was recently on Good Morning Football. And they basically asked him about his relationship with Jimmy Garoppolo. And I'm going to read you the quote here, Matt, and then get your take on it. He said, there are certain people who know let me do that again. There are certain people who know who they are. Jimmy G knows who he is. Jimmy G plays with swagger. Jimmy G has his own swagger. He's not walking around saying it, but Jimmy G plays with swagger. Jimmy G is a leader, a natural leader. I've played with a lot of quarterbacks. When I tell you this guy's a leader, he allows guys to follow him, not just by how he works, but he runs meetings like coaches. So when he sees a guy like Trey Lance, Jimmy would say, come under my wing, kid, because I want you to be successful. That's how I look at it. That's why me and Jimmy G had the relationship we had. And that's why I respect him always. Here's, let's see. I thought there was a little more. That might be it for this part. They also asked him about why he thinks he gets so much unfair criticism in the media. And he basically didn't have an answer. And he said, look, Jimmy is a winner. Look what the 49ers did and how they were before he got there. We've heard the argument before, right? But they asked him the Super Bowl play, the infamous Super Bowl play where Jimmy missed him on deep. And he basically refused, and as a former teammate probably always will, to put the blame on Jimmy and said, look, we didn't lose that game because of that one play. There were plays I could have made. There were plays Kittle could have made. There were plays Kendrick Bourne could have made. My two questions for you. We hear nothing nonstop about leadership about Jimmy Garoppolo. How much can you measure that? And how much is that a tangible thing you can measure? And then also, what is it about Jimmy Garoppolo that these players just have this kind of almost blind devotion to?
Listen, I'm sure he's a great guy, right? But great guy, good leader, only gets you so far. I think it's very telling that every time a player, a former teammate, a current teammate, or whatever comes out and defends Jimmy Garoppolo, they say, oh, he's a good leader. He just wins. But they never quantify what he actually does well as a quarterback because they can't. None of them will talk about, oh, he's really good at play action on second down and long, or like he's really good about whatever. It's always he wins. He's a leader. He's a great teammate, great locker room guy. He has swagger. But the X's and O's, between the numbers football stuff, they can't tell you. And it's very telling that, you get the cliche stock answer when you ask Emmanuel Sanders about that Super Bowl play, because he knows, right?
Yeah.
He knows that it was that play. Yes, there were other plays that could have been made, but it was that play.
Yeah. What's funny is when I think about this, the first thing that came to my mind, and I'm going to kind of adapt a quote from former President Reagan here, is it's not that our fellow Jimmy G stands are stupid. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. And I really do think that's kind of the case here, is that a lot of the things they feel about Jimmy Garoppolo might technically be true, but not really. And I mean, like you said, quantify it in what he does on the field that allows the 49ers to win. And you really can't. I mean, your best argument is he doesn't turn the ball over that much, but he still does turn the ball over more than you'd like.
He does, though. Yeah,
exactly.
His interception percentage is bad.
It's below league average. High. And to be fair, Kyle Brandt of Good Morning Football kind of made the point you just said, that you can say all these things, but when I look at Jimmy G, the thing I get is kind of something's missing. It's not enough. And maybe that's why Kyle Shanahan went out and got Trey Lance, and that in turn caused Emmanuel Sanders kind of to say, do I think he'll be back with the Niners? He didn't answer, but he said, I think Kyle Shanahan is sitting in a really good place. He's got a winning quarterback in Jimmy Garoppolo, but he also has the young guy, and he's trying to make a decision. He says that he doesn't see Garoppolo as a good quarterback that teams should want. He said, doesn't just see, him as a good quarterback team should want. He said he's a great quarterback, in my opinion. And it just kind of blew my mind the way he talks about him, because this is Emmanuel Sanders. He's played with Peyton Manning, and
right.
I mean, he just played with Josh Allen.
I also think Emmanuel Sanders might be, barking up a tree to get another job. So listen. If Jimmy G was such a great quarterback, then why does nobody want him?
Yeah.
The league is telling you what they think. As fans, we're telling you what we think. All you have to do really is, and that one guy, what's his name? I'm not even going to shout out his name. The one that has that Trey Lance axe to burn or whatever. That guy, the unfortunate guy that works for Grant over at SI.
Yes.
Former Jet scout.
Yeah. That's all I know.
Tell you all you need to know.
The guy who refers to himself as former NFL scout.
Yeah. The one who did a video breaking down Trey Lance film, but didn't put up any actual film.
Yeah. I think I know.
Yeah, that lazy piece of shit. But all you got to do, listen. Our eyes aren't lying. We watch the tape. We see the mistakes. All the other teams see the mistakes. There's a reason nobody wants him, and it's not just the shoulder capsule. Okay, Miami saw enough with with Tua, despite his hip thing that they drafted him. Now, was that the great move? Maybe not. But then you got moves like New Orleans signing Drew Brees after having a 360-degree labrum tear. Almost sight unseen. He hadn't healed yet, and they got something out of that. So it's not that. People are watching the tape. They realize what Jimmy G is and what Jimmy G isn't. The people that are like, oh, well, they just win with him. Well, when you compare him to Brian Hoyer and CJ Beathard and Nick Mullins, of course he's going to look good by comparison. But you can't tell me that these players don't sit across every Sunday when they played Russell Wilson, when they played Kyler Murray, when they played Josh Allen, when he lit their ass up on Monday Night Football, and say, dang, how good would this team be if we had a guy like that?
Right.
And it's easy to forget, right? Because after the game is over and you've had your little feeling session and you're upset about the game, and that it's a professional mindset, so you're on to the next. Now you're back with Jimmy G the person, right? the locker room leader. Oh, we're doing film, man. Jimmy's leading us through film. Oh, Jimmy will get us on the next one because he just, oh, he works hard. He works hard. He might work hard, but he's at the limit of his talent, and I think that people are in denial. But when push comes to shove, Carson Wentz keeps getting traded, keeps getting opportunities. Yeah. Nobody wanted Jimmy Garoppolo, and that should be very telling as to what the rest of the league thinks of him, and that 49er fans, and particularly John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, need to take the rose-colored glasses off and realize what's happening. And I think they will. I think it's a situation where they're going to try to get him cleared from the shoulder to kind of, knock out that injury guarantee. And if they can't find a partner, I'm willing to bet that they are going to release him. It just makes too much sense not to.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And it really is kind of, I think you put it perfectly as far as why do these players consistently come out and defend Jimmy Garoppolo. We've said it multiple times. I mean, this whole time we've had this show is they're people. I mean, they're friends outside of football. They have a relationship. And I do think that, that's kind of exactly what it is. How long has it been since Emmanuel Sanders has played a meaningful game with Jimmy Garoppolo? Over 2 years. So he doesn't have any resentment. He doesn't have any hard feelings because all that's so far in the past.
Exactly. And you have the rear view mirror, right? Like, dang, we didn't get it done, but what a hell of a season.
Exactly.
And that nostalgia kick will get you. We all have friends that are screw ups, right? But we're still friends with them because we've been friends for a long time. And you overlook the bad things because there are more good that you feel outweigh. And I think that's what's going on with the 49ers and the fans and stuff like that. But the rest of the league is looking at the tape and going like, I mean, cool, good leader, but, drop an interception into Bobby Wagner's lap. Can't see the safety underneath. Like, overthrows wide open receivers. It just, it's one of those things.
Yeah. And it just so happens that he'll happen to see Bobby Wagner twice a year. Well, that's not true because he's not going to be on the 49ers. If he were to stay in the NFC West, he would still see Bobby Wagner twice a year.
I'll put it this way, and this is going to piss a lot of people off. I wouldn't even be mad if the 49ers could only get something for him if they had to trade him to Seattle. I'd be like, trade him to Seattle. Let's take
I'd be happy.
I'm not scared of a team led by Jimmy Garoppolo, and neither is the rest of the league. And that's been the problem here.
Neither is the defense. I can tell you right now, neither is his defense. Yeah. Hunkfest says Emmanuel hoping Jimmy sends him a Rolex for the plug.
Yeah.
Yep. Ace Spread. Damn, so tired of Jimmy. Please retire or leave. I hear you, bro. We hate talking about him because we know this is kind of the sentiment with the fan base. But this time of the year,
it's how I feel as a Padres fan. I'm tired of talking about Eric Hosmer leaving town.
Yeah,
had to get in my baseball reference.
Totally get that. All right. Other NFL news, Stephon Diggs, Matt, was recently signed to kind of a monster extension with the Buffalo Bills, signed for 4 years, $104 million with $70 million guaranteed. Does this kind of foreshadow what you can expect for Deebo Samuel?
Yeah. Deebo's going to be looking up there near that $25, $26, $27 million a year, which again, back to the last topic, is why it's so imperative to get him out of here. They have to have some room to wiggle and restructure and do all that stuff. They're going to want to negotiate and get Deebo Samuel under extension as fast as possible, and that's just one of those things. But yeah, it was a big deal for Stephon Diggs, and that kind of does set the table and set the market for what we can expect for Deebo Samuel going forward in his contract negotiations.
It's going to be a lot of money, man. And to be fair, Emmanuel Sanders did say, I understand having to move off from Jimmy because you do have to extend guys like Deebo and Nick Bosa. But when I saw these details, I was blown away.
According to Lynch, they're budgeted for, so we should be good, right?
Oh, yeah. Totally. GMs never lie. Yeah. I was blown away by this contract because this is Stephon Diggs, if I remember correctly, third contract. Because he's been.
I'm not sure.
I think
I think it is his third. I think this is his third. Yeah, because he had the rookie deal with Minnesota.
Yeah. Steve says too much money. I think Deebo's worth it. I don't know. Do you find any?
I'm kind of with Steve. I think wide receiver is a nebulous place to put so much money. I really do. I think there's better positions, right? You're going to get more value out of, obviously, quarterback, out of left tackle, out of defensive end. Wide receiver, I mean, how long ago was it that Odell Beckham was viewed as the best wide receiver in football? And now it's like he's good when he plays, but he's injury prone and he's kind of washed. You know what I mean? Like that happens a lot. Wide receiver is the one position in the NFL that is complete. I mean, and tight end as well to a certain extent, but those receiver positions are the only ones in the NFL that are completely dependent upon somebody else getting you the ball. So you could be the best receiver in football, but you're never going to get paid like it if you don't have somebody to get you the football. You know, it's like, Tyreek Hill. What's the meme going around? Tyreek Hill is going from a Ferrari to a used 1998 Honda Civic.
Yeah.
You know, like what's Tyreek Hill's value if, Tua can't get him the ball and his stats drop and all of a sudden Tyreek Hill is upset. Now he's a malcontent. Oh, he's upset about things. We saw this with Odell Beckham. We've seen it with other players where they develop a reputation. A good wide receiver like Brandon Cooks. How many times has he been traded? Particularly after he signed that big contract. Wide receiver, yeah, you're going to get paid, but it's also going to be one of the first positions that you get out of town when you're running up against the salary cap and you got to sign more important positions. I think that wide receiver in terms of the contract is overvalued, but I mean, we're going to sign Debo and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it is tough. And, Steve's saying here, I need to see it for more than one season. Yeah. That's a great point.
Debo's been injury prone.
Yeah. How much you appreciate and value him. And this too, will he ever come anything close to last year? We saw George Kittle break the record and he's never come anything close to that since.
Well, I mean, George still has 1,000-yard seasons.
He's still been solid. Don't get me wrong, but yeah. would he have peaked? I guess is my question. Do you envision Debo
honestly with a better quarterback? Debo Samuel should have had closer to 2,000 yards receiving.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's fair.
Because he went that large stretch at the end of the season where they were using him more as like a running
back,
than as a receiver, and it's just like, oh man. I mean, it seemed like he got to 1,000 real early, and then for the last 8 or 9 games only had 400 or 500 more yards. And it's like, God, man, what if you just keep on the trajectory? And it's not like you watch the film. It's not like he's not open. He's getting open. He's doing the things that he normally does, just not getting them the ball.
To get the ball.
So I think it's a successful season if he can have another 1,000 yards receiving. But to think that he's going to get 1,400 or whatever, I don't know if that's realistic.
So I agree with you. And I also think that they likely won't be using him in the backfield as much with Trey Lance next season. I think that we talked about it during the season. They had to manufacture these touches because they couldn't trust Jimmy Garoppolo to consistently get him the ball. And not turn the ball over.
And the injuries to the running back room.
That too.
All the running backs missed time. Elijah Mitchell missed time. Obviously, Trey Sermon missed time. Raheem Mostert missed the whole season. Jeff Wilson's not very effective. So when you're looking at that, I'm fine with the jet sweeps and the motion type stuff, right? Those things that you can get him open and into positions where he can get the ball. I don't want to see Debo Samuel lined up in the backfield anymore. Yeah. That's where I think they need to change that. Because there were times towards the end of the season, they were lining him up in the backfield. Everybody knew Debo was getting the ball because he's lined up in the backfield. And that was that. I think the one thing that Kyle needs to get a little better at doing is disguising that stuff, because it was literally every time he was in the backfield, he handed them the ball.
Yep.
And it becomes predictable. It's like, we know what's coming.
Honestly, that was kind of what was so impressive. I mean, I'm thinking back to that Green Bay game, that last drive where they needed to get in field goal position. Everybody in the world knew that ball was going to Debo in the backfield.
Yep. And he still got 9 yards.
Still got 9 yards. When I had Mike on the last show, we were talking about Debo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, and whether or not the 49ers will be able to afford to sign both of them to second contracts. Mike didn't think so. And he also was of the opinion that Brandon Ayuk is the better pure receiver when it comes to running routes, being a pure receiver, not kind of all-around gadget player. Do you agree with either of those?
I agree with both of those.
You agree with both?
I think, I think Brandon Ayuk as a pure wide receiver he's a better route runner than Debo Samuel. I think he has more top-end speed than Debo Samuel. I think that he's just been stuck in a doghouse. I think it's going to be tough. I think that Debo's going to get this contract, and I think that there might be some instances of buyer's remorse, and that they'll, within 2 years, they're going to try to restructure. It's just how I see it going. The way that Debo plays, along with his injury history, tells me that unfortunately, it doesn't seem like he's going to last a long time. And I think that the way that Brandon Ayuk plays is a much more sustainable way to play in the NFL. So I hope I'm wrong, and I hope that Trey Lance brings something that allows Debo Samuel to save some of those hits, and that he doesn't have to line up in the backfield and do all that stuff. But it's just going to be dependent upon what they can get out of Trey Lance, what Brandon Ayuk looks like in his third year. Because, like, personally for me, I think Brandon Ayuk's going to pop this year. Yeah. I think Brandon Ayuk is going to establish himself as the clear best receiving threat. Debo might still be the better all-around threat, but I think that Brandon Ayuk is really going to take that next step. Every time that Trey Lance has an off-season program, has all this stuff, he's throwing to Brandon Ayuk. So the rapport is going to be there, and I think that that's going to show up early.
I agree, and I really do think it's going to be tough for them to try and keep both.
Bro, you wild for that?
Trade Debo and get 3 big starters in this year's draft. This is like the worst draft class. Yeah, I wouldn't trade him. Also, this is not the draft class. I would argue. No. At least looking into it, who knows what's going to be coming out of it.
Honestly, offensive line talent is pretty good in this draft, but beyond that, I mean, it's kind of a deep wide receiver draft too, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's going to be pretty tough for them to keep both. I think they could probably do it, but then you got to discuss if it's worth it. Is it worth it to pay 2 receivers, probably top dollar, because Brandon Ayuk, if all goes well, isn't signing for, middle of the pack. He's not going to get Debo money, in my opinion, but he's still going to get good money. He's talented.
I think he'll get decent money. I think those first 2 years are going to hurt him a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing with him is, you're going to know what Debo is by the time you get to his extension, because Ayuk was a first-round pick. So he has 2 more years and the 5th-year option. So they have time to work with him. And, it's a lot of, people are like, oh, sign Nick Bosa. It's like, man, they got time. They got time. This is Bosa's 4th year. They're going to pick up his 5th-year option and work on it at that point. So I just, by the time Debo's going to sign probably this year, they're going to look at his extension. If he keeps getting hurt or he becomes unproductive, I feel like they're going to structure this contract with Debo's play style in mind so that they're able to get out of it if they need to. As we've seen with the Rams, as we've seen with the Chiefs, the salary cap is kind of a myth anyway, so they'll be able to make it work.
Yeah, I hear you.
Don't forget that Kittle will probably be coming off the books at some point, which is another thing. I think that once Kittle's contract is here, if he wants another big contract, they're going to let him walk.
I could see it. I think with Debo, it's going to be tough for him to come close to what he did last season. Yeah. Particularly because they're not going to probably ask that of him anymore.
It's a weird. Nobody's expecting that though, except for the fans, right? I don't think.
No. I don't think so.
It's a weird thing where people think, oh, because you got this number, you can only be better than that number going forward. Like, is Cooper Kupp going to have the season that he had this season? Almost assuredly not. He had a preposterous season.
Right. I'm talking contract wise. From the team looking at it, they're probably, from their standpoint, they're probably saying you're not going to have a year that was better than last year, so we could probably pay you less. And it would be tough for his side to argue he will have a year better than last season. So we'll see. Steve says, I found it weird that Debo said if Trey wants to come to Florida, then they can work out together. He had no interest in going to trade with Trey Lance and Ayuk in California. I think that's just how he is, though. And he stays in Florida. He trains in Florida. I think he's got his own thing going on. We know these players train separately. I mean, I wouldn't read into that too much. Debo's kind of a funny guy. The stuff he posts on social media is questionable.
I mean, and it's not like from a laziness perspective either, because Debo is working out. So
yeah. Ian Sharp asked, how would the 49ers offense have gone without Debo last season?
Not well.
It would have been close to last in the NFL.
Not well. Yep. And that's another damnation on Jimmy Garoppolo.
Too talented. This team's too talented to be that far down on the list, and to be that dependent on one player, I should say. It's not right. And to have Kyle Shanahan as your head coach, George Kittle as your tight end, Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel as your two receivers, Elijah Mitchell as a breakout running back as a rookie, Kyle Juszczyk as a fullback. I mean, like, come on. There are way too many talented pieces here for it to be dependent on one person, because your quarterback cannot consistently get the ball where it needs to go.
Exactly. Yeah. And, you know, again, people will defend it, but like, dude, didn't Jimmy have 20 touchdown passes last season?
Is that what it was? 20? It was like 20 and 12 or something like that?
20 and 12. That's not good.
No.
That's not good.
And he played 15 games, I think, right?
15. Yeah.
Yeah. 14 and a half. Not good. That's horrible. That's horrible. All right. Next news in the 49ers world. The 49ers hosted Kamoko Toure per Field Yates today, the former edge of Indianapolis Colts, who had 6.5 sacks last season. You were telling me before we went on, Matt, this smells like a 49er signing. Tell the viewers why.
He just has a checkered injury history, and he's like one of those potential guys, right? Like, he's got potential. It seems like a guy that Kyle and John like to sign, kind of like the Samson Ebukams of the world and that type of situation. I think it's similar. And again, it just goes to show what this lingering contract has kind of done in terms of the 49ers are left kind of barrel scraping. They have to go after these guys because they weren't able to go after some of the bigger fish. And that's fine. I think that, the team has enough defensive line talent that this isn't like a super big deal or whatever, but it's a move, I guess. It's nothing that excites me, but it's fine.
Yeah, I like it. I like if they were to sign him, because he just was in for a visit and I think he left with a contract. I would be all for it. Like you said, this is kind of like that Arden Key, Kerry Hyder type. I'd like the signing. 6.5 sacks would be nice to have coming off the bench. I'm not saying obviously that's what he'd have, but that type of production, at least he's capable of it. Tom Huxley says Kittle's not being traded. Let's put that to sleep. He might be in the next couple of years.
He's not going to be traded. I just don't. If he wants top tight end dollar, when his contract expires, he's going to be in age 31, 32 season with his injury history and the way that he plays. Yeah. I don't know that the 49ers would be willing to give him top end dollar, and then that might lead him to go elsewhere. That's all I'm saying.
Funny how? Was he a clown? Do I amuse you? I love that quote. Ace, but I still think the Niners drafted safety with their first maybe
their first pick.
I don't know. I'm so all over the board this year with this draft. I honestly have.
They better go offensive. They better go offensive line with their first pick. Interior offensive line.
All I know
that's
is
that's the most critical need with Lake and Tomlinson gone, and Alex Mack aging out. They need to get an interior offensive lineman.
That's good. Yeah, that's a great argument. I back you on that. All I know is they should not draft a defensive lineman. If they draft a defensive lineman with their first pick, again, I'm going to lose it. I am going to lose it. They desperately need a wide receiver. I disagree, respectfully.
I disagree too. They don't desperately need one.
Not in the first or in the second, I guess I should say.
No, you can take a flyer on a guy later, but you can't tell me that wide receiver is a bigger need than interior offensive line, where you're going to start Daniel Brunskill and Aaron Banks.
Don't disrespect Jalen Moore like that.
Jalen Moore's a swing tackle. He ain't playing inside.
See, even Melissa sees interior O-line guard center
honestly,
is a
people
must.
resist it because it's not a sexy pick, right? It's not one that people get excited about. Literally, the only interior offensive lineman I've ever seen people stoked for was Quentin Nelson when he came out. But that was just because he was so good.
He got a lot of hype on social media. A lot of hype.
I mean, if Debo Ayuk get hurt, this wide receiver core is not good. But you can say that about any team if their top wide receiver goes out. Yeah. I think Juwan Jennings is enough to carry him. They can bring in a guy who's like not super expensive to, be a quality addition. But anytime your top guy gets hurt, You know,
Safety
like
bigger need
you're
than wide
telling me
receiver.
that the Rams wide receiver core is going to be great if Cooper Kupp gets hurt? Not really.
Yeah.
I think the good guys help everybody else be better. So,
Yep. Ian Sharp says Brunskill activates for the Rams games only.
I know,
Oh
right?
man. Yeah, seriously. Cold Strange. Joey asking. I'm not gonna lie to you. I am so out of the loop this year. Is this a pain medicine? What is this somebody's name? That's a draft prospect.
Yeah, I don't know.
The 49ers not having a first round pick and me just kind of being busy in my own life. This is probably the most I've ever been outside of 49ers draft world. And we're beginning of April. Like, it really is wild. I keep telling
Yeah.
myself I need to dig down and get familiar, but I haven't. So Joey, let us know what Cold Strange is, if that's something that's even rated G.
Right.
Melissa says Creed Humphrey got me laughed at for 4 months. Not sexy till he balled for Kansas City. We can't miss this year too. You two were the two people I saw screaming his name from the rooftops.
I knew he was going to be good. So yeah, my guy this year is Tyler Linderbaum, the center from Iowa. Dude,
I like the name. There's going to be quality guards in the third. We need a playmaker at free safety, Nick Cross. I agree with you. We need a playmaker there, but I just don't think that they take it in the draft.
Safety is not a big a need as the interior offensive line.
Yeah. I honestly don't know.
Like, I want to listen, with the higher picks, if you're more sure of guys, right, I want to take those guys. I don't want them to have to make a stretch pick in the 5th or 6th round to fill, Cole Strange, not Cold Strange. I gotcha.
Okay. All right. There we go.
Guard. Okay. And that's fine. But we talk about this all the time, right? Yeah. Okay. Playmaker at safety, whatever. But protecting Trey Lance should be your number one priority. The team, I mean, we talk about a weak wide receiver core. If Debo or Ayuk gets hurt, this is the type of weakness in the interior offensive line that could get Trey Lance hurt. And that's something that you want to address. So you need to get some maulers in there who are going to protect Trey Lance. Yeah. I mean, other than Trent Williams, there's question marks at every spot. We don't even know 100% that Alex Mack is going to be back. They think he's going to be back, but they don't know for sure. What's Mike McGlinchey going to look like coming off a torn quad? All these things that you have, Daniel Brunskill, what's he going to look like? I know that they're getting Justin School back, but is that super exciting either? So there's no way that you can tell me with only Trent Williams as the rock solid, like, what you're getting from him on your offensive line, that you can tell me that safety or wide receiver or wherever is a bigger priority. It's a flat out lie. It's factually incorrect. Yeah. So they need to go offensive, and I would like them to take multiple picks on the interior offensive line, to be honest.
I mean, they did it last year. Hasn't panned out quite yet, but
I mean,
you can't judge it a year
guards on the market. There were good players on the market. And once again, that damn Jimmy contract kept us from replenishing that offensive line. Yep. So now guess what? Draft capital. That's what's left.
Yep. Hung Fat says Cold Strange. Dr. Strange's detective brother in New York City.
Dude, that's pretty sick. I like that. By the way, did any of you have the unfortunate happenstance to see Morbius? I heard it's terrible.
I heard it was really bad. I did not see it. I think it has like an 18% on Rotten
Not surprising.
Tomatoes.
I think Jared Leto is one of the most overrated actors in history.
Dude's a creep.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of stories about him climbing into every single 18-year-old's DMs in Hollywood. And he has like a cult. 18. He has a cult. Have you heard this?
No.
He has a cult in like the desert somewhere of like 50 people that just like live.
Am I shocked? No,
that's what it's crazy. Like, you hear this stuff about Jared Leto and you're just like, yeah, I could see it. I'll send you a link when we're done here. It's pretty wild. Melissa says school has let me down, man. Couldn't even handle a mediocre Green Bay pass rush. Yeah. The 49ers were kind of getting beat up that night all over, to be honest. They keep taking offensive line later in the draft.
I know. I'd like them to take it earlier in the draft.
Niners have 10 offensive line. One is a second-round pick that should be competing. Need a center. Should be.
The quantity doesn't make the quality. Okay. Or do they have 10 good offensive linemen? No, they have like 1.5.
Yeah. And should he, but will he win that competition if he does compete? There wasn't too many great things we saw last season, but hey,
Right.
I want to see him too. Melissa, why would anyone watch Let After Yellow single-handedly ruin the Joker?
That was a lot of mess. He was fine in the reshoot.
I heard that was better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Send in your guys' questions, whatever you have you want us to talk about. That's actually all I had on my outline for today's show. Yes, it is somewhat structured, believe it or not.
It's the slow season prior to the draft, you know.
Yeah.
49ers are having visits and stuff like that. I think 2 free agent wide receivers came in for either workouts or whatever. Yeah. Ace Pro's asking, would you draft Christian Watson if he was there? So that's the exception, but that's because he has rapport with Trey Lance, and I think that's important. As we've seen with Jamar Chase, as we've seen with Jalen Waddle, having rapport with your college quarterback can lead to instant success in the NFL. That is the one situation where I would feel comfortable, because then you could do stuff like if you want to move Debo around the formation, then you have Ayuk and Watson on the outside, and you have Debo in the slot or in motion or doing his thing, and that adds another level. That I think would be worth it, but I don't know that he gets to the 49ers. I think his stock is rising, and I think that he's like a late first-round guy at this point.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because I do think he's probably going to go to like Green Bay or somewhere like that. I'm kind of getting the feeling that's a perfect fit for them. They desperately need a receiver. They lost their 2 of their 3 starting receivers. I don't think he makes it out of the first round. If he did,
they need something. Yes. Otherwise, Aaron Rodgers is going to have a really raucous locker room. He has nobody to throw to. That was a terrible Aaron Rodgers impression. I don't know. He's a weirdo too. Speaking of Jared Leto,
he really is. Steve says thoughts on McKivitz starting at right tackle until McGlinchey comes back. Played solid for Trent Williams.
There's potential there. I'm not going to rule anything out, because I think that some of these guys can be coached up really well, and I think that some of these guys can do well in spot starts and things like that. There's just so many unknowns, and this position group, more than any other, you're looking at, and it's like these are the question marks, right? I had a lot of these concerns about the secondary, and they addressed some of that, right? They signed Travis Ward, and Hufanga might get a look, and there are other people that could come down the pipeline. There's no guarantee. As far as I know, Jaquiski Tartt's still out there. There's no guarantee that he doesn't end up coming back. So my questions with the secondary are now far less than they are for the offensive line, which I think outside of Trent Williams is, if you're looking at it objectively, it's kind of in shambles. There's nothing else on the, Alex Mack, great veteran presence, but actual blocker, not what he was. No. So they have a lot of problems, and they need to figure that out.
Melissa, are you guys writing off Deommodore Lenoir and Talanoa Hufanga, like many fans falling over themselves for these upcoming DBs?
There's a lot of good DBs, but I'm not writing these kids off. It's really hard to write people off after a rookie season.
Yeah. I'm higher on Lenoir than I am on Hufanga. I just don't think Hufanga can be that starting safety that the 49ers need him to be. At least at a high enough caliber
from what they're used to.
Yeah.
Hufanga's like a box safety. He's like an against the run safety. That's what his calling card's going to be. I don't think that he has the athleticism to be like that center fielder.
No.
He needs to be running up and thumping and like blitzing and stuff like that. That could be fixed with defensive adjustments, maybe rotating coverage, whatever. Lenoir, I'm not super high on. I thought he was okay. But you still have Emmanuel Mosley, and I'm telling you guys, don't sleep on the fact that Ambry Thomas came on so quick, so late. When people forget, much like Trey Lance, he didn't play in that 2020 season. So, he's got a lot that he can improve on, and getting back into football shape and up to football speed over the course of that season, that was big. And we'll see if Ambry Thomas can take the logical next step to becoming even better. And if he does, then you're looking at Charvarius Ward, Emmanuel Mosley, and Ambry Thomas as 3 good physical cornerbacks, and that would put them in a good position.
And well said. Hung Fat's asking, does Elijah Mitchell's injury history over 1 year concern you, Matt? He missed a handful of games last season.
Yeah, they were all weird, different injuries too, right? It's like, oh, it's like a shoulder or an ankle or knee or whatever. It always concerns me, and that's why I think that you need to have depth at the running back position. And I think that's why Trey Sermon actually taking a step forward and competing, which when you watch his workout videos, he's a big dude.
He's
a big dude.
Beast.
Yeah. So you hope that he can come in and compete, right? They re-signed Jeff Wilson Jr., so there's depth there. Not to the point that those crazy rumors about them trading for Saquon Barkley should have been taken seriously, but there's depth there. The injury history does concern me, but Kyle Shanahan's shown that he can still be pretty effective running the ball, even without like a number 1 guy all the time.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think having, you just said his name totally, Trey Sermon, compete and kind of take that next step, take a step really, because we really didn't see anything from him. A handful of carries in year 1, and then he got that kind of freak injury where he did that flip and got the concussion all at the same time, and then we didn't see him again. I think we saw him in the playoffs briefly, but it does concern me just because that was kind of the first time we saw him with an extended period of time as the starting running back, and he missed 5-6 games if I remember correctly. So and he's talented. He's extremely talented. The Niners need him out there. Melissa says, it makes me sad that with DJ Jones in Denver, people still want to ship off our last draftee from the first Shanny Lynch draft. Who is that? Who is the last one
Kittle.
here? Oh, Kittle. Duh.
Yeah.
It's a business.
Hufanga does show flashes, and that's why I think that you got to give him time. A lot of it is adjustment, right? Like, is the defense the same? What are you being asked to do? How much playing time did you get? We're talking about rookies, okay? Like, there are some undeniably talented players that come into the league and just hit right away. And they hit right away. But there has never been a player in NFL history who doesn't have the room to get better after their first year. So this is a process. These are young guys. You have, again, the whole point is to develop talent. When you're drafting, you're developing talent. So give them time.
Steve says Hufanga is the new Marcel Harris.
I think we got Marcel Harris back, right?
Is he still on the roster?
I think he's a free agent. He oh wait, no, that's who am I thinking of? Tarvarius Moore, who
ruptured his toes. He's back. Tarvarius and Charvarius.
Yeah.
Melissa, do you think we avoid there? Yeah. Do you think we avoid a Verrett this year so when injury happens, we aren't failing at a major spot?
I said if you can sign Verrett for the league minimum, bring him back, because we have enough talent around him that if he goes down, no big deal. But if he sticks around and plays like he did in 2020, then more the better for us.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a low risk, high reward type thing, right? Because you don't need him. The Charvarius Ward signing makes it so that you're not desperate for a Jason Verrett, like the 49ers were when Jason Verrett went down against Detroit, and they're like, oh God, well, we better go get Josh Norman.
Yeah,
that's tough. what we're looking at.
Ian says it was Kyle's fault for not using Wilson and Hasty more. He has this weird thing with the running backs where once it's like the hot hand, like he just sticks with a guy when it's going well, and it could be his fault. He gave Mitchell too many carries. George Kittle 5th round seems like forever ago. I think with Trey at quarterback, he can finally not be a 6th offensive lineman. That's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, he still almost had 1,000 yards last season, so it's not like he's never catching. But I mean, he's just such a good running back, or not a running back, tight end, blocker, a running blocker.
Yeah.
That and such a willing run blocker that I mean, he does it really well. So
I thought he topped 1,000. Did he finish shy of 1,000?
I think he finished with 922. Let me look it up.
That's tough. Hunk Fat's asking if Charvarius Ward is a true
He
number
finished with
one.
910.
That sucks. I remember he was over 900 like with a few games to go. It sucks he didn't finish it.
So
is Charvarius Ward a true number one corner?
He is for the 49ers, and that's all that matters.
Well said.
This is the team
answer.
that works from the line of scrimmage out. Charvarius Ward shores up enough of that corner position that the defensive line will have a little more time to work. They won't be able to do. So what killed the 49ers was that teams figured out, hey, these corners suck, right? Like some of these corners suck. If we can get the ball out quickly or put them on rub routes or whatever, they're going to have a hard time defending. And what that did was that negated our really good pass rush. With Charvarius Ward there, they won't be able to do that as much, and that just helps out the defense.
Yeah. Melissa says it wasn't just corner, though. It happened at running back and offensive line as well last year. That's my biggest fear.
I mean, football teams are going to have injuries. No team went without a serious injury at some point. I mean, Tampa had Chris Godwin that got injured. There were various injuries in Kansas City that hurt them.
Robert
all
Woods.
The teams. Joe Burrow and the Bengals had injuries. Yeah. It's one of those things, man.
Yeah. Tarvarius or Diamador, who would you rather have at nickel?
Neither.
Give me Tarvarius.
If I'm being honest, I think that you'd want Ward on the outside along with either Mosley or Thomas, and I feel like even those guys, even Thomas is suspect. Maybe you put Ward in the slot.
Yeah. Jimmy or Tarvarius?
Tarvarius.
Okay.
Yeah,
Steve said
Ward in the slot. Sorry, I know Jimmy Ward.
Yeah.
So they're gonna have to do the naming thing where it's like J Ward and T Ward.
I think so. Yeah,
that sucks.
Ward, Mosley, and Thomas are a nice combo to have in the secondary. Yeah, it's a lot better than what they had last year.
And then you still have Jimmy Ward there, who is just such an underrated talent. Yeah. I mean, look, just those four names leaves you with a pretty good secondary, even if Hufanga has to fill in that spot and it's not exactly what you want. But also don't underestimate somebody that they could potentially pick up in training camp, because we know training camp cuts happen all the time. So there's still time for this roster to move. We don't know what they're doing in the draft. So right now it's all speculation, but going into the season with those names, I wouldn't be upset. The offensive line is where, again, that has to be addressed. That is the most critical need they have right now.
Totally agree. We're going to be wrapping things up here, guys. Sorry, let me just get this ready. We have a new sponsor.
Hey,
it is BetUS. Shout out to BetUS. They are sponsoring today's show. We appreciate you guys reaching out, and we're excited to partner with you guys. And right now they have a ton of promos going on, guys. I'm just going to pick one that sounds good to me because there's really so many to pick from. If you click the link in the bio right now, the 49ers Hive League is the very first one under our sponsors. They have a home run promo going on from the 1st through the 30th. And you get a $25 chip for their casino for every home run your batter hits. You got to go take advantage of this right now. $25 casino chip for every home run that your batter hits. Click the link in the bio, sign up today, bet with BetUS, and support 49ers Hive. We really do appreciate all you guys that do support our sponsors, because they in turn support us. Like I said, link is in the description. Click it, go sign up today. They got a ton of promos you guys can take advantage of. That's not the only one. They also have regular website promos with 25 casino chips. You get 125% of your first deposit. 200% depending on how much you deposit. There's a ton. Like I said, click the link in the description, go to BetUS today and sign up. I think that's going to do it for today's show, guys.
Yeah. To not get confused, I'm calling him Charizard. Oh, Steve and Melissa also bring up good points. Steve said, don't forget about Odom. He could get a look. Odom from Indianapolis definitely could get a look. I know they liked him when he played in spot duty, so there's potential. As far as the special teams players, Odom is going to be a guy. Ray McLeod, I think, is an underrated signing. They need to work with him on ball security. But the 49ers were one of the bottom feeders in the league in terms of starting field position. And I think that having a dedicated and good returner is going to alleviate some of that. And hopefully that puts the 49ers in a better position to start their offensive drive. So I think that's a really good move.
It's such an underrated part of football, honestly. Special teams, not underrated, maybe overlooked is a better term. And I like
Yeah.
that they went out of their way to address it this offseason because they had kind of neglected it for a long time. All right, gold stamp, let's
Gold
do it.
stamp. Let's do it.
I got mine right here.
Mail yourself a letter, Zach.
Shout out
Oh,
to
two
Acre
letters.
Gold.
Two letters.
I got a third one here too. They
Wait.
changed their packaging, but
oh
yeah, I got 3 because I'm buying them in bulk now.
nice.
Shout out to Acre Gold. You can start buying gold for as little as $50 a month. You guys know what it's like to want some gold and have to fork out hundreds of dollars. That's no longer the case. Click the link in the description. You could start buying gold. $50 once you reach the market price of 2.5 grams. Acre Gold will send you what Matt calls a gold stamp. It is 2.5 grams, as the camera will show you. My stubby fingers can get out of there. There you go. Click the link in the description and start buying gold today for as little as $50 a month. Think of it as an investment. Over time, you will discreetly and securely get your gold bar in the mail. Shout out to Acre Gold for sponsoring the show. Thank you very much.
That preceding message was brought to you by Zach the Mailman Hernandez.
That's right. That's right. But I think that's going to do it. New sponsor. That's right. New sponsor. Shout out to BetUS. So weird to see special teams win the Green Bay game. Yeah. Tell me about
Hufanga.
it. Yep. Thank you for reminding me, Melissa. I always forget about Acre Gold.
Also, shout outs to Joey, man. I think I'm going to probably call Charvarius Charizard now, too.
Yeah, it's a good nickname.
It's a really good one.
Yeah. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of the Red and Gold Standard podcast. Like I said, click the link in the description. Go to all of our sponsors, shout them out. We got some merch. I actually didn't even shout that out. We have some merch. We kind of got to sell it on the low because it got pulled from our Teespring store. But it is a rendition of the Super Bowl that the 49ers won. You know what? Let me just pull it up real quick and show y'all why I have it here.
Wait, they tried to pull it?
They pulled it because of it having, because the 49ers was separate, which is ridiculous because I have so much merch like that. But here you go. Championship Vibes merch. So because the 49ers was separate from Hive, their little detector or whatever. Oh, you know, here, let me pull this out. There you go. They pulled it. So I'm selling them on the low. So if you want one, hit me up. I can still hook you up. $20 for tees, I believe, is the pricing, and $35 for hoodies, men's and women's sizes. Hit me up, guys. This is something cool we're doing here. Cool design, I thought. Why not take it back to some good old days when the 49ers were winning rings again? So
sweet.
If you want one, hit me up. Send me a DM. You know the deal. But that's going to do it. Feel like we've been ending this podcast for like a half hour. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We will be live with you very soon. If not, I don't know if we're still going to do a show this weekend.
Yeah, probably.
We'll be live Sunday. Come join us Sunday. Hit like, hit subscribe. Yeah, shout out to Steve that helped with the graphics. We're trying to get 2,000 subscribers. We're so close. Help us get there so we can give away a 49ers jersey. And you guys got to let me know, do you prefer the autographed jerseys that you hang up like such, or do you prefer a wearable jersey that you just wear? Whoever the winner is, they can pick. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. That's going to do it. Matt, you want to close this out?
Yeah, go follow us on all our socials. They're down below. You know where to find us. Thank you, as always, for joining us. We love having you guys here, and we're going to be bringing you more coverage in the future. So with that being said, until next time, go Niners.